Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the POPsicle, a sweet new show where a guest and I lap up what's new in pop culture. My name is RJ from RJ's Food Rocks, and today we have a very special guest. He needs no introduction. He literally owns half of the company. He loves the word lap up. He approved it right away when I told him I wanted to do a show. It's Ryno. Hi, Ryno.
Hello. Thank you for finally having me on this show. I can't wait to lap up this conversation. Blech.
There it is. There it is. Yes, thank you for I've always kept you on the bench, as they say in sports, because I know you're always going to be there for me to be a guest on the show. So thanks for sticking it out.
I'm your pinch hitter.
You'll make the team someday.
I'll keep sitting here, coach, till you call me in.
Today on the POPsicle, we will be unwrapping the film Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. So here is your TCDE, Too Cold Didn't Eat. Lifelong friends Barb and Star embark on the adventure of a lifetime when they decide to leave their small Midwestern town for the first time ever, where they soon find themselves tangled up in an adventure, love, and a villain's plot to kill everyone in town. What? This movie stars Annie Mamulo and Kristen Wiig as Barb and Star, respectively. They also wrote the screenplay. Previously, the duo was nominated for an Academy Award for their film Bridesmaids. This film was directed by Josh Greenbaum, and other stars in the movie include Jamie Dornan and Damon Wayans Jr. This film was originally supposed to come out with a theatrical release in July 2020, but due to the pandemic, this film was instead delayed and has been released on demand this February. And I would say it has become, at least on gay Twitter, has become kind of like a it has become kind of like a cult hit. So, Ryno, I don't know if you watched the show, but usually we start with some of the things that we liked about the POPsicle, the sweet. So let's go ahead and start with the sweet. And I, for one, just wanted to say, really love this film. I was laughing so hard. It's so silly. It's so campy. There were so many bits and pieces of this movie that felt like a sketch show come to life, and it was so fun to watch, from the music numbers to the punchlines to loopy drug sequences. It was just so much fun to literally be to have fun again. Isn't it nice to have fun again?
It definitely had that energy of friends sitting in a room and being like, wouldn't this be okay? So this is the setup for the scene, but wouldn't it be funny if this happened? Wouldn't it be funny if this crab on the beach just turned and started speaking to her out of nowhere? Wouldn't that be hilarious? And so it had that that kind of warm feeling to it, where it was knowing the two people who starred in this movie were also the two people who wrote it. I envy the relationship they had to be in the same room at the same time and do out the outline of a movie that essentially is I think when we watched it, we said this was similar to an Austin Powers, how that spoofs on James Bond. It was very much I did not expect that at all, but it was so much just this two people caught up in a situation that they had no idea they were caught up in. But it was so funny because they were so pure, just trying to live their life. And I feel like this movie somehow became a metaphor for all of us, kind of stuck up in quarantine, about being we just got to get out there and do what makes us happy eventually, you know? It took on a new life, a new meaning, I feel like. So
yeah, it was a fun surprise. And I grew up watching the Austin Power movies. I loved the Austin Power movies.
Yes.
Was not appropriate a child my age to be watching the Austin Power movies, but I did. And so the entire time I was getting those vibes, especially with Kristen Wiig, who is playing double. She's playing Star, but she's also playing Sharon, who is the villain of the movie. And she looked and sounded horrible as Sharon, that I was like, she's so funny. She's so ugly. I can't stand it. So
I didn't even know her name was Sharon until you just said that, because I had no idea. Okay, but she would pop up on screen and you were like, oh God. And it was when you said it was an Austin Powers film, there is nothing that you can compare this to other than that. It literally, it starts out and that little boy on the bike is just listen on his headphones, like jamming to like this great song. And then he gets to a tree that is like an entrance to an underground like lair. And you're like, oh, what on God's green earth am I watching right now? And it
What
is
is this movie? I
so absurd. But like, it is one absurd scene after the other, but somehow it still has this like innocent, like kind of cute friendship story where you're just like, oh, that's so cute because Barb and Star are just so like the best friends from Nebraska and they're just so cute. Like, also, their accent to me sounded like, I don't know what a Nebraska accent sounds like, but to me it sounded like Drop Dead Gorgeous, like a Minnesota.
Yeah, I think it was so nice to just kind of like see these two characters. It's always nice. Like the biggest thing about sketch comedy is that, and as an expert of no, I made it sound like I was an expert.
As a former member of SNL, please tell us, RJ, what do you know?
No, I would say like what's really fun about sketch comedy is that sometimes when the characters are really laid in and grounded and you're like, wow, I can't see past this character, like I this actor is gone, they are just this like crazy character. That like commitment makes it so much more funny when they're put in these situations of like, now she has to like be in an airport. Like what do these characters look like in a full plane? What do these characters look like in a like a ayahuasca like spiritual journey? What do the characters look like, at like a bar? So it was fun to kind of see that. And I agree, like the surprise really took me because I think we were all expecting like, oh, this is going to be kind of like a bridesmaids, like feel good, not feel good, but like it's more about like the friendship. But it ended up being about the friendship, but in like
Yeah.
completely zonkers like situations that we all bought in because it's like, you know what? It's the pandemic. Like, no, who cares anymore? Like, let's
Like, when
sure.
was the last time we watched an actual movie? Yeah, geez. Yeah, it was one of those where we're just relieved to have something to laugh at, relieved to have something new, something fun. And thank God Kristen Wiig has kept us laughing through Wonder Woman 1984, through this. Like, we just have her to constantly having us laugh, laugh, laugh. So,
It is nice to see her like be a comedy queen again.
yeah, that was I was gonna say after, because you think of like, oh well, Bridesmaids was so funny, but also Bridesmaids was like Kristen Wiig is not really the funny person in that movie. She's the straight man, essentially, and like, and it's
Yeah,
Melissa
she's the street.
McCarthy,
Yeah, totally.
it's the surrounding characters. It's like Wendy, like it's all the other people around her are like heightened versions. And then like, so when she finally has her breakdown, we're like, oh God, we can relate to that. Right. But like in this movie, it was like these two
Hmm.
sweet people that have never really been anywhere else that are kind of caught up in this absolutely makes no this feels like a cocktail napkin at a bar after 3 drinks in. You are like, should we write a movie? Should we write a movie? Let's write a movie. Okay, I've been watching all these James Bond movies. What should we write?
One of the things that I also liked about the movie that I didn't expect to like was Jamie Dornan as the like love interest and basically like the third co-star of the film. He was such a goofball and such a derp and such a like dope that like I remember us making the comment when we were watching it that was like, he's not like the sexy, like he's
Yeah,
not like a sex
right.
symbol anymore. He
Not
is very
really. No.
attractive, but like he's fully playing this character of a dope that like you're like, yeah, he's like attractive, but like he's really selling the derpiness of it.
Like, he's in shape, I think. Like, like he's got his shirt off a couple times. Like, there was one scene where we were like, okay. But then other scenes were like, oh, okay. But like it's one of those
Yeah.
things where you're like, it's like that Seinfeld episode where he's dating that girl, but depending on where she is in the lighting, he can't tell if she's attractive or not. And that's what I felt like this movie was like, where I was like, this is Dorian Gray. Like this, I didn't see those movies, but I know that's who he played. And I was like, so this was the guy they
Yeah.
picked to be the most attractive human being on planet Earth. I don't see it, but that's okay. Like, he's not ugly. Like, I think he's an attractive guy, but you're right. Like, it was something about him being kind of that, like, derpy kind of guy that, like, removes that aspect from him. But then every now and then you'd be like,
Mhm.
I mean, I wouldn't kick it out. Like, I'd be all right. Like, I wouldn't say no.
I think he did a really good job. It kind of gave me the same vibes of like when Chris Hemsworth was in Ghostbusters. Like I think that's something that Kristen Wiig is interested in, which I'm really excited about. Is that let's take these like
Yeah.
blockbuster like sexy dudes and give them like fully comedic, just like fully go crazy and be stupid in a movie and just like watch them have fun because you can tell that Jamie Dornan
Oh,
had so much
yeah.
fun making this movie.
Oh, and I am here for it. If you want to give Chris Hemsworth any sort of comedy roles, I mean, he was great in Ghostbusters. He was great when they took that turn and were like, okay, we need to make like Ragnarok. When that took the turn of being like a funny movie, like it's still good and it still has
Oh,
weight on his
Ragnarok is
character, but
so funny. Oh my
when
god.
like yeah when it's the rewatchability of that movie, whether that's my favorite Marvel movie or not. That's the
Mhm.
one I could put on easily and be like, this is funny, but also there's character development. And like it's one of those movies where I was like, okay, this is the Thor I want to watch, not the one who is in Dark World or whatever. And like, I want to watch Ghostbusters. I want to watch what was the other, he had the cameo in like Family Vacation, or the remake of the Vacation movie. He was
Yeah,
like
yes.
cameo in that, and he's so good in that, but he's only in it for like 10 minutes maybe, but he's just so funny. And I was like, this guy has a future in comedy. He's so good, and he is just easy to look at.
Hot men can be funny now. Like
Thank God they don't just give us the looks in their body. Thank God they've taken humor from us uglies. Thank God for that.
thank God for that. Wow, what a moment in history. So, as part of the show, I don't know if you've seen it, but as part of the show, sometimes like a popsicle, when it gets a little hot out and, we haven't eaten it all up right away, it tends to get a little sticky. So, let's talk about the sticky.
I couldn't afford popsicles. We had freeze pops.
Oh,
We just poured the freeze pops. Do you ever think about this? Did you do this at daycare? I don't know. Maybe your family had money, but I had to go to daycare when I was a kid. But all the daycare kids, and this is disgusting. Post pandemic, obviously, we'd all agree to save the last quarter of our freeze pops and pour it into one ultra freeze pop, and we were like, "That's the super flavor," because it had the yellow, the green, the blue, all in one flavor. And we all took sips, and then it's like, yeah, no wonder why we all got like mono and like disgusting. We were all licking the same freeze pop in the backyard of a house. It's like with an above ground pool right next to us. It was just like that was our jam.
you used to buy you able to buy like the plastic that looks like for like freeze pops, and you would make your own freeze pops with like coconut juice or
What?
like mango,
You
and you
made
would
it
make them.
yourself?
Yes, we would tie them up and then we would sell them for like 5 pesos. Like you could buy one,
Oh my
and then you would
god.
just chew off the end
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the plastic and then just stuck on the popsicle. Yeah.
I grew up in the wrong country. It's fine.
All right. So we're talking about the sticky. One of the first stickies that I had in the movie was, it wasn't that it was bad, but it was just so Damon Wayans Jr. is in the movie as kind of like the foil for Jamie Dornan's character. He plays Darlie Bunkle. He's supposed to be like the like trump card for Jamie's character to be like, oh, the Sharon, the villain, is like, oh, I have another secret agent because you can't do your job. I'll have this other agent do it. But he was also kind of like bumbling in his own way. Like his whole bit was that he was a character who couldn't be like secretive. So he always just like gave his full name or like
Like
gave
he
his
was
address.
super private, but he was like, "Oh, I'm not in room 155." Oh, shoot. I am. Like, yeah. It was always the accidental reveal.
Yeah, and I totally felt that it was like unnecessary to be honest. I was like, Damon Wayans Jr. is such a great actor. He's great to look at. He's so funny, but it was like I feel like he didn't really have anything to do.
I completely agree with you, and it's one of those things where like I remember the moment where I was like, "Oh my god, this is Damon Wayans' son," because I think Damon Wayans is easily my favorite of the Wayans brothers, like the Wayans family.
Yes, yeah.
Like growing growing up, my father would show us like Major Payne, and like Blank Man, and all these things. And so I've always been a Damon Wayans fan. Like I come from a Damon Wayans fan like household. And so the show Happy Endings, when that came out, and Damon Wayans Jr. was the main character in that before New Girl. And the big thing with that is that had filmed, they didn't think it was going to get picked up. Damon Wayans Jr. had done the pilot for New Girl. And then when the pilot aired, that was when ABC decided to pick up Happy Endings, because it was like a delayed pilot. Like they filmed the whole first season, but it didn't air when it was supposed to, and was brought in as back end. And it ended up being more popular than the network had expected. So they renewed it and used the contract. So he was not able to be in New Girl. But then he's on New Girl later after Happy Endings was canceled. So that's why he's like in the first episode and then not in it again until like 2 seasons later, which I'm happy about. But I do think if you have never seen Happy Endings, it's all on Hulu. I am telling you, this is one of the funniest shows I have ever seen. It is both of the brothers who did the Russo brothers did it, who were executive producers and directed, who also did like Community, and they did Infinity War and that sort of stuff, obviously Endgame and the Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff. But Damon Wayans plays Damon Wayans Jr. father in one of the episodes of the show. But regardless, Damon Wayans Jr. is brilliant on this show. Brilliant. Like I'm talking like comedic like it will go unappreciated till the end of time, unfortunately. And it was a hill I will die on. And I do not think he has found a role to fit that comedic genius that he has that equals up to that yet.
Yeah.
And that is like New Girl. I don't love Coach, but then he was in like that movie with Jake Johnson and him where they're like, let's be cops. And like, I thought the movie was stupid funny, but it wasn't like he's so good on Happy Endings because he can just be anything he wants to be. And all these other roles he's kind of pigeonholed into like a little spot. I feel like his role in this movie was kind of cut down. I think his role was probably more expansive in like a director's cut, and then it got like whittled down into what we saw.
Yeah, because we watched the bloopers and there was a full dining scene where he was like in a costume and he and Jamie were supposed to like, I think like pass off the microchip or whatever. And it was like this full like heist scene that was completely cut from the final cut of the movie. So yeah, I agree. It probably was. We get it. You're a stan.
I bought it. All 3 seasons right here. I own them. So I'm just saying, even though I have them streaming, I still bought them, just so we know.
Another, I guess like my big other sticky of the movie is that, and it's not like a fault of the movie, I think it's just how it came out, but like I love everyone else that they got in this movie. Fortune Feimster, Vanessa Bayer, Wendy McLendon Covey. Like truly, Wendy McLendon Covey is one of the funniest women.
Yeah, she's underappreciated,
and the fact that she was only for one scene.
Yeah, what a waste, right? What a waste.
And I just felt bad because those three, it was like Phyllis, the women in the club, back at home,
the Talking Club.
I wanted them to be in. I wanted the Talking Club to be in Florida so bad because I was like, I feel bad. Like I want to see that dynamic also somehow figure themselves out in Florida as well. And I was like, I wish everyone got a free trip, but I guess we could only afford to send so many people. But I just love the other cast so much. And Kristen and Annie, obviously all their friends are like funny women just like they are, so I completely like understand that they were able to be part of the movie too. But yeah, I did wish that like we saw more of Wendy's character, we saw more of Talking Club, even though they were spliced in like throughout the movie.
Wendy's cameo just like almost, you were like, oh my God, yes, Wendy is in this movie. I'm so excited because I love her character in like Bridesmaid and since Bridesmaids we have like the Goldbergs, and like if you're not watching the Goldbergs, she is the reason alone to watch this show because she's so good.
She is,
and you're like,
the reason to watch the show.
So good. Ryno 911, like she's so funny, like she's so good, and it's just it's so quick, and it's like her last line of the movie, I'm like, oh, she's coming back around again. And then she doesn't come back around again. And I was like, oh, what a bummer. I will say my sticky point for this movie is that So I'm a big proponent of like the advertising of a movie can either be the arm that helps it or the arm that sinks it. Like
Mhm.
uh
So Widows was a
mhm.
big movie that came out, and it was, like, packaged like it was supposed to be a heist
Yeah.
movie, but if you watch Widows, it truly is more, like, kind of empowering, but, I mean, it was truly a drama and, like, about women, like, taking matters into their own hands, and it was actually really powerful, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite movies that year, but yeah, because it was packaged in a completely different way.
What was M. Night Shyamalan's The Village? I remember seeing The Village in the movies, and if you watch The Village now, like you've never seen it, watch it, and you'll just watch it as a movie, not knowing anything about it, and you might enjoy it better. But it was packaged as being this like horror thriller, and that is not what that movie is. Like it's got a mystery in it, like. But I remember that was the first movie I remember walking out and being like, wow, the advertising for this movie like really, really failed this movie. And that's the thing is that I get that
Mm.
the advertising can be the trick that gets you in the seats. But the problem is it sets you with a certain type of like a mental expectation. And so if you're not prepped, either you are prepped for a different type of movie like you're getting, like you said, Widows was like you thinking a heist thriller, but really it's a drama character piece. You know, that sometimes can take so long for you to switch your mind around it because you're waiting for it to go into the genre that it's been advertised as. It's just,
Yeah.
and I feel like this movie, I mean, Barb and Star literally was like the question mark movie. It doesn't. It literally. That's the joke. The preview shows you nothing about the movie, but the problem is Kristen Wiig's last big movie, ultimately
Yeah,
before this,
literally
was
nothing.
Bridesmaids, and they're advertising it being like, "Oh, from the writers of Bridesmaids," and you're like, "Yeah, Bridesmaids is nominated for an Academy Award because ultimately it's a character-driven movie that looks at people in a very realistic manner, but in a comedic way."
Mhm.
This movie is just like spoof. It's a spoof movie. It literally is like an Austin Powers. It's next generation
Yeah.
Austin Powers. It's Austin Powers from a different angle, from a nobody's involvement in the movie angle. And that was one of those, like I remember being like, oh, like that is not at all what I thought this movie was going to be. Even if it was just a sketch comedy movie, it's still so
Mhm.
absurd. You're like, oh, okay, I haven't seen a movie like it's like Anchorman or like Chris Farley movies. You know, it reminds me of like that sort of stuff. And so I feel like
Yeah.
the advertising kind of pulled you out of it a little bit. Like it took a minute to be like, if you're renting it thinking it's going to be like this funny like Bridesmaids movie, but they're fun Nebraska people, that's not really what it is.
I had such a big distance from when I first saw the
Yeah.
previews. Like last year, it was like all over the theaters because they were getting ready to show it in July. So I think like since I wasn't able to see anything since then, I was like, I completely have no expectations for this movie again. So
Yeah, I think that's a thing too. If you're not like the problem is I'm the type of learner where I see one movie preview or I can figure out a movie so quick it's disgusting where I am just like, oh, this is point like I feel like sometimes it ruins the fun for other people and I don't mean to do that, but it was one of those movies where like
mm,
I think if I had just gone in to watch it without having ever seen any advertising for it, I would have had no expectations. So that but again, I'm not like disappointed because I mean we laughed the whole time.
the
The whole
whole
time.
time.
Come on, Trish.
Oh my God, we didn't even talk about Trish.
I got the biggest.
Okay, I'm not gonna ruin it for if you watching
Uh,
the show and you have not seen this movie, you have to watch it now because there is a running bit about this woman named Trish.
it's not even a running bit. It's just literally a one part of the movie, and you're just like the absurdity of them having this conversation is so ridiculous, but it like pays off later. It's so
It
stupid.
pays off so well. Truly, I don't think they will write this in history books about screenwriting and cinema, about how a bit like this paid off so well to the point where we had to pause the movie because Adam
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
ran up and down the apartment just like it's so good. Do it for Trish.
It was Trish.
It was
What was that? It was Trish.
It was Trish. It's
Well, I don't
so
even
good.
remember how they started the conversation about Trish, but I just remember them being like, "Oh, we just have this thing we make up, and it's a woman named Trish, and blah 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 blah." And it's just so it goes on for so long. It's so funny. It's worth that part made it worth watching the movie alone. 100% agree.
So to wrap up, this movie is a wild and campy summer movie that you can watch whenever you want because it's on demand. And trust us, the punchlines will truly get you when you least expect it. And also Trish, you just have to watch this movie for this Trish bit. It is so good.
I don't even know if this would have hit the same way had we not been locked up for a year and we're just desperate for like new comedic movies and stuff like that. But I would recommend if you've got anybody in your life that you feel safe being in the same room with or whatever, like watch it with them. And because this is one of those where like, I think you'll get something out of it if you're watching it with another person. Yeah.
Traditional in my show is that sometimes I'll also make a recipe that's based on a piece of pop culture. So in honor of this movie, it is the one food that they show in the movie, and it is Barb and Star's hot dog soup. They make it.
God, no! You did not make hot dog soup. Oh my God!
They made it in their talking club, and it's really easy to make according to Barb and Star. So
stew?
It is a bean stew with hot dogs in it. Cut up hot dogs.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I can't believe that. I want this so bad. I want it so bad. It looks so disgusting. I need to try it.
Yes, I'll let you know how it works. So you'll be seeing the recipe for the hot dog soup on the link below on the video or on the details of this episode. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Popsicle. If you are watching on YouTube, go ahead and comment below and let us know what you think about Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. If you're listening to us on the podcast, make sure you leave us a rating or a review. Tell me what you think of the show and what you'd like to hear more in the future. Every 5th episode, we are doing a book. So the next episode after this will be our book episode. It is A Pho Love Story by Lonely. There's a link on this episode to buy your own copy. Ryno, go ahead and plug away.
Oh, I was like, you just did your show. You can find me on social media at RYNO1185 on everything, Twitter, Instagram, email, I don't know, war bonds, whatever you want to send to me. I am also on the Ampliverse doing shows as well with the Bourbon Study. If you haven't seen that, that's where me and my good friend Jill, twice a week, we taste a bourbon once a week, and then we make a drink with it on the weekend. So it's a fun little journey that we're on. We do that. I do the Podcast Rangers, which is my Power Rangers podcast, where we just kind of break it down in a very accessible way to have conversation-based things where we try not to exclude anybody, whether you've seen one episode or every episode or just one episode 100 times. Everybody's welcome to get in on that conversation. So I have those two things that are a part of this on the Ampliverse, but and then God knows what else. I don't know.
You can find me at RJ Food Rocks on all of your social media, and my YouTube channel, RJ's Food Rocks, premieres a new video every week. The Popsicle is part of the Ampliverse, and you can find all of our shows on theampliverse.com. Thank you again, Ryno, for joining me, and thank you for listening. This has been The Popsicle. Bye-bye. It was Trish. Bye, Trish.
Discovering voices, building worlds. The Ampliverse.